submitted on the subreddit ScaryStories by the user of Man of Banners. So I love to hike, and so do my friends. We were always planning trips, and I even met my fiance while hiking. One weekend, myself, my now fiance, and two other friends planned a trip to Irish Wilderness, Missouri. We saw photos of it and had to go. A pretty hilly forest with all greenery you want. One thing I distinctly remember was all the dark green moss everywhere, so we went. Before I continue, I must add that we were very experienced hikers. We knew everything about it too, from map reading to how to catch, kill, and skin animals for food. So this wilderness would prove no issue, we thought. We were at the trailhead, and things were already kinda weird. There was a deer skull on the trailhead board. At the time, it was more of a what the heck than any real alarm that we should have heeded. We continued down the trail. We hike for a few hours. All the while we chat and joke around, all good friends. The trail is clearly defined as well, marked with red spray paint dots every few trees near the trail. We were making good pace. As we were talking to the pace setter, the person in front, they stopped. We all asked, "What's up?" She replies, "Where's the trail?" We began to look around, and sure enough, we were not on the trail any longer. What the F? I thought. We were not panicked at this point. Simply backtrack where we came from, right? Well, we did, for an hour at least, and no trail. No trail. It is noon at this point. We took a break to gather ourselves and develop a plan. Since we were technically lost, we decided we would head down a saddle. It's a dip or a low point along a ridge. The reason for this is because the water flows down. If we find water, then you will eventually find the civilization, or what we were hoping, a trail. We found a creek that flowed down, so we followed. We followed for a good while until it drained off a cliff. And what do you know? There were tents down there. We found a way down and approached the tent saying, "Hello." In retrospect, what a dumb decision. There was no one. There were two tents, a white 2-man tent and a blue 3-man tent. They were mangled and clearly been here for a while. There were beer cans and food wrappers everywhere. Then we saw what would really begin our fear for the remaining of the trip. Bullet casings and a deer carcass, like a horror movie. One of my best friends and I looked at each other, saying, "Poachers." Now I know this may not sound like a big deal, but it really is. If you know about poachers, you know what they do is highly illegal. With that, you know what kind of people they are. Poachers would rather kill a human than have that human rat on them. Also, take into account we are literally in Missouri. We just stumbled upon their camp and now we pose a threat. And perfect timing, there was a gunshot in the distance. "We need to go, now," my friend says. We began to run. We got out of the camp very quickly and began to walk in the opposite direction. Still no trail. But apparently, we were not far enough away because we heard a man say from behind, "There was someone here." "Run, run, run!" was all our instinct. We hauled ass. The forest began to thicken, but we didn't care. We were hauling. Nightfall came rather quickly, likely because of winter. We found a good spot to camp, but I suggested we only laid out our sleeping bags just in case. We went to sleep. I awoke in the middle of the night to my friend covering my mouth. My chest pounded with fear, but he put a finger over his lips to signal to me to be quiet. The others were already quietly packing their sleeping bags. I nudged him to tell me what is going on. There was talking in the distance. There was a light shining. It was them, those poachers. They somehow were able to follow us. How good are these guys at tracking, I thought. They were far enough away to have their speech inaudible, but I do remember one saying, "This is dumb." We let them pass some 50 feet away, and we waited for the sun to rise. When the sun did come up, we began to move. We found a trail and eventually ended up at the original trailhead. We got out of there very quickly. With all the fear I experienced that night, I'm almost hesitant to say I liked it. I liked the rush, the adrenaline, to be haunted. I know it's weird, but that is my scary hiking story. This next story was submitted on the subreddit ScaryStories by the user named BootyBandito777. It was a normal February night. My friend and I went walking on a trail in my small town. My mom had warned me not to go on trails at night because of the weird people on them. It was around 7:30 p.m., so it was pretty dark. My friend kept getting angry with his phone because it wouldn't play his music, and as we were walking, we heard a loud bang noise, like someone breaking wood against a tree. We were pretty spooked, so we began to look around for where the noise was coming from, and that's when we looked through the trees, and we saw a male figure sitting next to a campfire. We both looked at each other, trying to figure out what to do, and that's when his music kicked on full blast. We then looked back at the campfire to see the man standing up and looking in our direction. We both turned and ran back towards his truck. About halfway, we stopped. We were both out of breath. We thought we had lost him, so we started to laugh it off, and he turned his music back on, and we started walking the gravel trail back to his truck. Then I told him to turn the music down, because I thought I heard something. And sure enough, I heard the man sprinting towards us. Our eyes widened, and we ran the rest of the way back to his truck. We made it out of the trail and back to his truck, and as I got in and locked the doors, I looked back to the trail to see the man nearing the end of the trail, still running as fast as he could towards us. I turned to my friend and yelled, "Go, go, go!" He started the truck and pulled out of there. As we were driving off, I turned around to look and see if I could catch a glimpse of him. And sure enough, he was staring at us while we drove off. This next scary hiking story was submitted on the subreddit of Killer Orange Cat by the user Killer Orange Cat. I never thought that hiking could be scary. I really didn't. I know that there are a lot of scary hiking stories online, but honestly, when I went hiking, there was just things that I couldn't relate to the tellers of these stories. For example, I don't find the woods scary. I don't find the incredible darkness of the woods scary. And when I run into other hikers, I hadn't ever experienced any weird or scary people. Most everyone out hiking is pretty normal. So when I finally had a scary experience hiking, I knew it was something that I would definitely have to share. I was extremely surprised, and having had it happen to me then made me much more apt to believe other stories as well. I work a Monday through Friday job, so when I take a vacation, I get the 5 days off, plus the weekend before and after, so I have 9 days to do whatever it is that I want to do. So this time, I took off for a good and long camping and hiking trip. I wanted to go to an area that I've never been before. I picked a place up in the Appalachian Mountains. I had to fly into the local area and then rent a car to drive out of the hotel. The following day, I went out into an area that I was planning on exploring. It was scouted out, so I had a map and showed me exactly where I needed to go. Being an experienced hiker, I was very good at following maps of the wilderness. Now, although I have mentioned coming across people in the past when I have been hiking or camping, it really wasn't something that happened very often. I have just been camping so much in my life that me experiencing it, even a vast minority of my trips, still added up to the experience it several times. And all the people I have met, for the most part, just wanted to get on their way. This happened on my third night that I was out hiking. That was also one of the reasons it was odd. I had already set up my camp and it had already gotten dark out. Definitely no one should have been out hiking after dark. I was sitting around my fire when I heard some noises in the woods. I was prepared in case of an animal, but I quickly saw a man emerge from the woods into my campgrounds. There was nothing unusual about the man either. he was just like any other camper I've come across before. So other than the fact that he was wandering around in the woods at night, there wasn't really anything too suspicious. I invited the guy to come sit by the fire with me. I gave him a couple drinks from a bottle that I had brought with me. I found out that, like me, he was an avid hiker. However, unlike me, he had hiked and camped in the local area many times before. All in all, we had a good time just chatting. After that, he said he was going back to his camp and was happy to not only have met me, but having the opportunity to chat. The following day, I didn't come across anyone. It was just a normal hiking and camping day. However, the night following that, as I was camping, the guy then again came across my camp. He gave me some cliches like, "Oh, what are the odds?" and things like that. It really wasn't that strange, since we were both hiking in the same area. But it was a bit weird that he was acting like it was so unlikely that he would have came across each other again. So I let him sit by the fire with me for a second night. We had a nice time again, and after a while he excused himself to go back to his campsite. I have to admit, after a bit, I got a little curious about this guy, so I decided I would see if I could find his campsite. I took my bottle of whiskey with me because I figured I could tell him I just wanted one last drink before going to bed, to explain why I had followed him. I walked around in the dark a bit until I heard some people talking, and when I did, I recognized one of those voices as the man I had seen for those 2 nights. Well, of course I was curious as to what they were talking about, so I decided to eavesdrop a bit, and to this day, I'm very glad I did. "Yeah, he should be asleep soon," the voice I recognized said. "He had quite a few shots of whiskey, but hey, if he wakes up, then we'll just have to deal with him another way." "You sure he's got anything worth stealing?" the other voice asked. "At the very least, I'm sure he has got some credit cards in his wallet," the first voice replied. "If he goes missing for a while, he can't cancel the cards, can he?" I knew they were talking about me, and their words were terrifying. I tried to go back to my campsite as slowly and quietly as I could. I got into my tent, and going through my packs, found my unloaded gun and my bullets. I mentioned I had been a hiker for a very long time, and I knew that a hiker had always to be ready for trouble. Rather than going in my tent, I went and hid behind a tree, and I waited. Eventually, I heard noises, and I knew that the 2 men were coming towards my campsite, but I was waiting until I could see them. And that's when I came slowly out from behind the tree. They were looking in my things and didn't notice me, so I fired a warning shot. When they saw me and saw the gun, the 2 guys immediately bolted, dropping my things. Now you probably think that this is the end of the story, and it wasn't very scary since I was the one with the gun. Well, you'd be wrong. I scared the men off, yeah, but that doesn't mean they wouldn't come back again while I was sleeping. So I had to stay up the entire night, watching, and they could have come back from any direction, and who knew if they had a gun, or own, or not. So yeah, it was a very unpleasant night. As soon as daylight hit, I packed up and made my way out of the woods. Even though it would take days to get myself back to the area with my car rental, the map showed me how to get to the road, and once I hitchhiked back, I didn't feel safe, really, until I was sitting in my rental car.